Thanks for checking in to the State of Basketball Podcast, episode 29. I'm Adam Miller, and I'm here with Jaren Wilt each and every week, and we're going to be bringing you the news and notes on all 11 Division I schools in the state of Indiana because in 49 states,
it's just basketball.
We got a late night episode here. If you're here on the East Coast, we're here live around 10:30. A casual 90 minutes after we said we were going to be live. Tweeted out we're that friend that says we're on our way when we have not in fact left the crib. So we're here. Starting. 10:30 is a good time to start, right? If you're doing like pregame on a Saturday. But Sunday night, here we are, live podcast talking about Indiana basketball. We're going to be talking about not just the transfer portal, but just kind of roster turnover in general. So we saw some teams have a lot of roster turnover, new coaches coming in, and other teams not having much roster turnover at all. So the way that college basketball is now, you turn over half of your roster, sometimes more. And that's like a regular thing. So we're going to be talking about who's going, who's coming in, and who's staying. And we're pretty excited about it. I apologize in advance. I'm going to butcher probably half the names that I try and do. Like until I hear them on, I would say until I hear them on TV, like I don't know them. But even then, you hear them multiple times, like multiple ways.
Yeah, that's one thing. We were just talking about Umar Ballo. We've heard Omar, we've heard Umar. I think one of those things that unless we actually got a phonetic card from the player themselves, sometimes you're just not going to say it right. And I think that's
I know. I know it's Umar. I don't know if it's Ballo or Ballo. I've heard both.
You're right. Yeah.
Who knows?
It goes both ways for first and last name. For sometimes we said Khalilware, sometimes we said Khalilware. It's just, I think that's the nature of it. I think that shows that we know the ball. We just aren't named people.
Yeah, at least we don't have to go live on like ESPN and say their names under pressure. Yet. If you're hiring, we'll work for the mouse. We will work for the mouse. So we're just kind of gonna go through all 11 teams, kind of like how we used to do with our weekly breakdown. We're going to start at the top alphabetically, and we're going to go all the way down, from Ball State all the way down to Valparaiso. We're going to talk about where they ended the season in their rankings and where this like new roster that they have as of right now kind of projects them to be. So some teams went up, some teams went down based on their roster. KenPom is what we normally use. Typically KenPom doesn't update with all the roster stuff. I don't know. He takes the summer off, I guess, turns his algorithm off and lets that figure out when the season gets closer. So we're using Bart Torvik, which is a great resource. It's free. I mean, that's the number one best thing about it in my mind is it is free. Yep. You can do more on things like Evan Mia, but the more you can do, kind of the more you have to pay. So we used Bart Torvik because his is a rolling thing that updates, and his is updated based on the current rosters. And so we're going to be using his rankings for the end of the year and his rankings for kind of where we are right now. So just a little bit of a primer there, but I think we're ready to get into it. And as we usually do, other than that one time, you remember that one time we went in power ranking order?
Well, we went power ranking order. Yeah, I think we went backwards once too.
It was disgusting.
I feel like we started with Valpo and worked our way up to Ball State at one point too.
Never again.
No, keep it alphabetical.
Yeah,
my peanut-sized brain did not
just felt wrong because the way our notes are organized is they're in alphabetical order, the way that we go through the show. And when I sprung it on you to go, in power ranking order, we were all over the place.
And it was as we were starting.
Yeah. I didn't think of it. It was just on the day. I was like, let's do it. You're like, okay. So thanks for humoring me. But you want to get into Ball State, Jaren?
Yes. Let's start with Ball State. I think the best way that we agreed that we're going to go through this is we're going to start with the guys who have transferred out
Mhm.
first. So, um, as they say, kind of out with the old and with the new kind of thing. I think we're just going to start with, you know, who's leaving, who's out. Then we'll talk about who's staying, who that core is, and then the guys that are coming in to talk about, where is the team um, going to be next season. So, uh, I guess just to start, so at the end of this last season, based on like Adam said, Torvik, Ball State was ranked 259. So um, at the end, once we talk about the guys that are staying and coming in, we'll talk about where did they where are they projected to be going into next season. So quite a few guys transferred out. A couple guys didn't see a lot of playing time. Some played minimal minutes. Some names, were key guys for the Cardinals. So starting, we got Jack Fuda, who's a 6'5" junior. He's transferred out. Trent Middleton, a guy who played some decent minutes for the Cardinals, transferred. Micah Bell, 6'3", redshirt sophomore. Quincy Adams, 6'5", redshirt sophomore. They both transferred. Just Joey Brown, 6'5", sophomore. A lot of sophomores, which don't love to see it. A couple names that we did not love to see. Bashir Jihad, he transferred. Jalen Anderson entered the portal for his second time, and then Davion Bailey transferred out as well. So quite a few names there.
Yeah. Those last 3 are kind of the big ones, Jihad, Anderson, and Bailey, because those are your 3 of your top 4 minutes users. 3 of your 4 starters transferred, and 3, like, other than Mickey Pearson, those are your top 3 people who
Yeah,
are getting
yeah.
the most of your minutes, most of your points, especially, I mean, the top 3 scorers, I think they're,
I believe so. I
yeah,
mean, they
because
all
Mickey P
averaged
yeah,
over
over
12 points
12.
per game,
Mhm.
and then they all played, over 32 minutes per game. So a lot of minutes, a lot of points leaving for the Cardinals.
Yeah, so, I mean, those 3 hurt, but, some of them were kind of like you could see a little bit coming, like Bashir Jihad, you kinda thought might happen because of, the people that they brought in, but before we talk about that, let's talk about the people that are staying. So, um, Mickey Pearson Jr., one of their starters from last year, stayed, so I think this will be his last year at
Yep.
Ball State. Mason
Yep.
Jones, he's back, and Ben Hendricks is back. So those were kind of like your 3 people that saw the most amount of time last year that are returning, because they kind of ran a fairly short bench at Ball State last year, and then kind of other pieces that they're bringing back is Zane Doty, Doty,
Dowdy.
Dowdy. He's back. He got like a foot injury at one point, so he missed a good portion of the season. And Uriga, he's back as well, so they're going to be sophomores this year. And then the other one that it's like kind of back, kind of new is Ethan Britton Watts. He missed all of last year because he was out with an injury. So he's going to be coming. He comes over from Boston and played a decent amount of minutes there, about 24 minutes per game at Boston. So could see some impact. Probably going to come off the bench, but um, as of right now, they've only got 3 transfers in. Why don't you tell us about those, Jaren?
Yeah. So I'll start with Joey Hart, 6'5" sophomore, transferring in from Kentucky. Did not play hardly at all at Kentucky last season. Makes sense why he transferred. So that is he is a down transfer, but a big name. I mean, when you think about any guy that Coach Cal recruits, is typically a high caliber guy. They just, he just didn't play. That's just kind of, how it fell down. Peyton Sparks returning to Ball State after taking we'll call it a gap year at Indiana.
Yeah,
Um,
living
took
his
a took a
dream.
took a break from Ball State, transferred up, played in the Big Ten, only played about 7 minutes. Just not sure. Maybe it just wasn't the right fit. We actually thought, or a lot of people thought that 2 years ago, when Mike Lewis was hired at Ball State, that he was going to transfer to Indiana. Then didn't, stayed a year under Mike Lewis, then transferred, and now is back. So I think that's kind of a big reason why Jihad is transferring out, just because
Absolutely.
they kind of play the same. They play the same position. Is the way it falls. Um, and then Jeremiah Hernandez, a guy that I think I'm the most excited for out of the three that transferred in at this point. We saw a lot of him at Southern Indiana. He was, I think, that Southern Indiana's best player. Played lights out. Was their leading scorer, their leading minutes guy. So big addition at the lead guard spot for the Cardinals, especially with Jalen Anderson leaving.
Yeah, Peyton Sparks, like you look at his averages from last year and you pretty much have to ignore that. He averaged like 2 points last year, but in his first 2 years when he was at Ball State, he like averaged over 13 points a game. So that's, the kind of the minimum of what you should expect, take his experience in the Big Ten and be able to produce more at the MAC level. So it's nice to see him back. And yeah, like you said, he's probably, him coming back is probably one of the reasons why Bashir Jihad left. If that's not why, then that is great insurance that Mike Lewis picked up in the portal. I love to see that he came back, because that means, they had an understanding basically. Mike Lewis played at Indiana. Peyton Sparks went to go play at Indiana and was, seemingly more than welcome to come back to Ball State. So I love that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but just these three guys, Hernandez, Hart, and Sparks, you're just getting bucket getters from all
Yeah,
three.
yeah,
Hart was on Ball State's, like, kind of pegged as a Ball State recruit, I think, last year.
yeah. He
When
was. I mean, he was being
out of high
recruited by
school,
Ball State out of high school.
it was like a couple Indiana schools, like Ball State, and I want to say he's from over maybe by Terre Haute, but he was recruited by like kind of that level of play, that level of school. But last year, like Kentucky was like not, their roster was just not filling up. And so, Cal basically just had to, fill spots. And Joey Hart, I mean, why would you say no to Kentucky, obviously, but,
Right. I mean,
didn't play, 1.5 minutes per game. So got some garbage time, but, I expect him to be a good productive player at the MAC level for sure.
yeah, yeah. I mean, with all of this, the going into next season, the projection right now, based on the very early kind of metrics, is that Ball State would be at 206. So that's a pretty
Hmm.
sizable jump, 53 spots. So love to see that. Love to see that, especially with two more roster spots open. Um, for the Cardinals, I think those might be technically filled by high school recruits. Not 100% sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they're at
Right
there.
now, but still two spots open. So
Still
they
time in the portal, still
I,
time to pick people up.
yeah, I
And
don't see I
honestly,
don't see those rankings going down based on
yeah.
adding two more guys.
And honestly, I think you're gonna see with some of these teams, like they're gonna have roster holes. Like they're probably gonna be at 10 scholarships instead of 12, because in the NIL era, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit easier to make 10 people happy than it is to make 13 people happy. And especially when, like, I don't know, you'd rather give a walk on that 13th scholarship than
Right.
like some guy who's kind of going to be wasting his minutes almost, playing
Yeah.
maybe 1 minute a game, but could be getting more playing time elsewhere. But let's jump down to Ball State, Butler. So we're going from Ball State down to Butler in Indy, and so Ball State and Torvik, they finished the season
Butler
last year.
and Harvick.
Butler finished the season last year. Ball State, good jump. They finished the season last year in Torvik at 57. So they were right on the cusp for a little bit of like being on the bubble and making it into the NCAA tournament. They made the NIT, lost in the first round, unfortunately, and didn't get to make it to that Final Four in Hinkle Fieldhouse. But they are losing a couple of pieces and a couple couple of big pieces. So they have two people who are, I think, just graduated, and that's Jalen Thomas and John Michael Malloy. So Jalen Thomas is a big hit, but I mean, you knew you were going to lose him anyway. Um, and then you have like four transfers here, and two of them really hurt in my mind. But Connor Turnbull is transferring. Artemio Gavalas. I don't know. I'm sorry if I messed your name up. I'm too focused on the other two, which are DJ Davis is transferring and Posh Alexander are transferring. So your main assist guard and your main scoring guard are gone, which hurt. But I mean, I think they did a pretty good job filling those holes. But I mean, I was really excited to have Posh here. This is DJ Davis's second transfer in 2 years, I think.
And Posh's.
Yeah, and Posh's. So getting their work done in the transfer portal, but hate to see him go. But we've got some good pieces coming back for sure.
Yeah. And in terms of guys coming back, so Peter Brooks, Job Telfort, Andre Screen, three guys that played quite a bit. Andre Screen's minutes don't reflect it, but he was splitting time all season with Jalen Thomas. So big piece there. I think he's got the experience, and we debated back and forth all season if he should be the starter over Thomas. So he'll be that starting center. Like I said, Pierre Brooks, John Telfort, bucket getters, absolute dogs on the court. Finley Bizjack, a guy we were excited that stayed. He did enter the portal, but Thad had a good enough pitch to him to get him to stay. So exciting piece there. Then there's Landon Moore, Evan Haywood, who is a freshman coming in, who's a 3-star recruit. And then Bowden Kapke and Augusto Cassia, both guys that are returning for the Dogs as well.
Yeah, it's nice to see that you bring your leading scorer back with Pierre Brooks. And, Telfort was huge, especially in like the end of the season. He was really important. But they bring in some really good pieces that I'm excited about. And so their new lead guard is going to be Colby King. He transfers over from Tulane. Then they're bringing someone, they pulled him away from playing for his dad. So he's going to be hanging out with his brother and his brother's girlfriend, who is, something of a star for the Indiana Fever. This is Patrick McCaffrey. So I really like this pickup by the Bulldogs. So he's going to play that 4 spot. And I mean, when you played a million seasons at Iowa in the Big Ten, I mean, coming to Butler, I mean, you're going to be able to produce pretty much the same thing that you've been doing. And then that third transfer that they have is Jamie Kaiser. He transfers over from Maryland. Didn't do a whole lot, like played about 20 minutes per game, only scored like 4.4 points per game. But I think that he can, like, with the role that Thad can give him, I think he's going to be pretty successful. I liked that pickup a lot. He's a guy that Indiana was pretty high on out of high school and ended up going to Maryland. So I'm glad to see him coming to Indiana, not to the Hoosiers, but to the Bulldogs. So I think that those 3 pickups are really nice. And the returner I'm very excited about is Finley. I was glad, Big East freshman team, glad to have him back. So based on these transfers, I mean, you lose big pieces like Posh and DJ Davis, but I mean, Torvik with these 3 pieces they're picking up in the portal, they went up 7 spots. They're projected to start 50th if the season started today. So that's a really good spot to be in. I think that they can play their way up for sure, especially with the experience that they have. Like Pierre Brooks is a senior. Patrick McCaffrey has been in college for like 9 years. So they've got a lot of experience here that I think is going to lead them to, a successful season.
Yeah. Then talk about Evansville. So Evansville ended the season in Torvik at 210. So just outside the top 200. Lost quite a few minutes. I think probably one of the teams that lost the most minutes outside of IUPUI or IUND. But number of transfers out, there's Sekou Kali, Yassine Toomey, huge miss. I mean, he averaged over 10 in 25 minutes. Chuck Bailey the third, a guy that we loved all season, just absolutely popped off the bench. He's transferring out. Ben Humrickhouse, if we remember, he was an NAIA, wow, transfer up to the Aces, and then he after popping off and having a NBA caliber season, transferred again. And then they're also losing Antonio Thomas, Gage Bobe, and Kenny Strawbridge. Kenny Strawbridge being the really kind of the lead guard for the Aces. So big set of transfers out for the Aces.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a team that just lost 4 of its 5 starters, and would have finished higher in Torvik or whatever ranking if Humrickhouse hadn't been hurt for so long.
Yeah, he missed about 7 or 8 games, I think.
Yeah, but the pieces that they're bringing back Cam Hafner, Tanner Cuff, and Josh Hughes. So you got, some older pieces there that are going to help you. Played all around, 15 to 20-ish minutes there. So you bring in some, keeping some pieces that you really needed to keep. They've got Ramondo Battle and Braylon Jackson, Michael Day, Guy Tesh, and Dakota Chandler are kind of these guys that are like all the known roster spots that are coming back. And, maybe a red shirt here with maybe Chandler. I'm not really sure what they're going to do with all these roster spots, because they filled out almost all of them, but there's still some pieces that they can fill out if they want to fill out their deep bench. Battle's like the number 37 ranked player in JUCO, so averaged almost 15 points a game. Comes over from Walter State, so should be a big piece there. But only picked up, I think, 2 transfers?
Yep. So
from
2
D1.
transfers. Kayshawn Corner, a transfer from Eastern Kentucky, likely to fill that lead guard spot. He averaged 25 and a half minutes last season. He was a 36% 3-point shooter. So you got a lead guard that can shoot the ball there. And then Connor Turnbull, transfer from Butler to the Aces. So a guy that saw some pretty decent minutes early on in the season for Butler last year, and even the year before. So knows how to compete at a high level. He just didn't fit, in my opinion, Butler's play style, because he's more undersized compared to Screen and Thomas, and Butler likes to run 4 guards a lot.
Yeah.
So being a 6'10" forward, he just didn't quite. There wasn't a role for him really with the Bulldogs. So exciting that he can kind of fill that spot that they're losing with Ben Humrickhouse. I'd say they're very comparable in their play style. So I think a really good fit there. And, unfortunately, with all of the pieces that they are losing, Evansville is one of the few teams that did go down based on their projected rankings. So they're projected at 216 going into the season. So just 6 spots. But, I mean, it's going to be exciting to see what Coach Ragland can do with these Aces this season.
Yeah, so let's talk about Indiana. So they finished in Torvik last year at 83. Not sniffing the tournament, but hoping to make a jump here this next year. So what did they lose? Well, they lost Khalil Ware. He going to the NBA draft, and Xavier Johnson graduated. Anthony Walker, who transferred over from Miami, he graduated as well. So they lost 2 seniors, and then a person who's going to be picked in the first round of the NBA draft. So big pieces are gone for sure, and then 3 smaller pieces people with smaller roles are transferring as well. Caleb Banks is transferring, Peyton Sparks transferring back to Ball State, like we said, and then CJ Gunn is transferring. Kind of guys that just didn't get the minutes that we kind of thought that they could get at Indiana. So it completely makes sense that they transferred. But they've got some really good pieces coming back. I mean, I would say all the important pieces that they thought were going to come back came back.
Yeah, yes. I mean, Trey Galloway obviously announced on senior night that he was coming back for his COVID year. Mackenzie Mbako, who we thought going into last season could be an NBA draft pick, he's coming back for his sophomore season. Malik Renew, who was a huge role offensively for the Hoosiers, their second leading scorer, he's returning. Then you've got guys like Gabe Cupps, Anthony Leal, who played pretty important roles on that team last year. Ja'Kai Newton coming back. He took a red shirt last year with some injury. Very dynamic guard. I'm excited for him. He's a guy that can do it on both sides of the court. And then they brought in a 5-star ranked McDonald's All-American and Bryson Tucker as a freshman coming in. He's a 6'7" forward. So, a lot of returning pieces, and then obviously Bryson Tucker, who is going to be a freshman next season. Really, there was the Mike Woodson special, picking up a late cycle 5-star
Every time. Yeah. So what they picked up in the transfer portal is, I mean, they were ranked according to some places, number one, having the number one transfer class for a while. I don't think that that has stayed the same.
I think 24/7 has them at number 2.
Okay, yeah, and On 3 has them at 4th. So depends on where you look, but they were number one everywhere for a while because I think the first piece they picked up was Umar Ballo.
Nope.
Did you say no?
Lead guard, yeah.
Rice was first?
Yep.
Oh, I thought Ballo was first. Well, they picked up Miles Rice, transfers over from Washington State. They got their center at Umar Ballo to replace Khalil Ware, kind of a different role, but a 7-footer to play down low. And then they got kind of the 2-guard Kanan Carlisle. Not really sure who's going to start between him and Trey Galloway. I could see it going either way. I could see Mike Woodson giving it to Trey Galloway, the starting role, because he's a senior. He's been there for so long, and it's kind of like Trey Galloway is not going to be a guy who's going to let that be taken away from him. But I could also see him giving it to Kalen Carlisle to have Trey Galloway's influence off the bench. So we'll see what they do there. And then coming home is Luke Goody. Grew up an Indiana guy, transfers to Indiana after being at Illinois for 3 years. So he is the shooter who's going to be coming off the bench, presumably give them some, incredible shooting, something that the Hoosiers have desperately needed for a while now. So hopefully that pans out. But I mean, a really good haul for the Hoosiers. And then, like you said, Bryson Tucker, that freshman coming in, 5-star, 4-star, wherever you look. I mean, top 20, top 25 guy. I'm excited about the team. I think Ja'Kai Newton is a kind of a wild card. Like, what is he going to do? He is absolutely gigantic for being 6'3". He looks Big Ten ready. Seems like he took every second that he wasn't able to play basketball and just lifted and just got ready to play in the ways he could. So we'll see what they do. But after kind of a disappointing year last year, definitely an improvement on the talent level here for the Hoosiers.
Yeah. I mean, Torvik has him at number 21 going into next season. So
61, 62 spot jump.
Yeah, could see them start the season inside the top 25. A lot of analysts have them there just based on that haul with the returning pieces. So if you're an Indiana fan, there's some signs of life. There's optimism in the air. Unfortunately, if you're an Indiana State fan, that may not be the case. They ended the season last year, Torvik 42. So, they were, again, a team that got snubbed they were firmly on the bubble, and it just popped at the last second, so they didn't make the NCAA tournament. They did, they were runners up in NIT, but guys that transferred out.
It's a long
give us
list.
a second because there's quite a few. So Jaden Schertz, Josh Schertz's son, naturally transferred out, presumably to follow his dad. Eli Shetler transferred out. Augustinas Kidolis, 6'8" sophomore, transferred. Mason Miller, guy who didn't play a whole lot, but he of the guys that transferred out, not from the starting lineup. He probably played the second number of minutes. And then Jake Wolf, he, I believe, graduated. And then Xavier Bledson graduated as well. But as far as the starting lineup goes, Robbie Avila transferred, Jason Kent transferred, Julian Larry, Ryan Conwell, and Isaiah Swope all left the Sycamores. So not great.
Not what you want to see, but
yeah,
exactly what we expected to see when Schertz got hired at St. Louis.
Who is staying?
Not a lot of production is staying. Aaron Gray is coming back for his senior season. He averaged, 5 points or 5 minutes per game. Derek Forrest is back. I think he was Matt Graves was the lead recruiter on him, so it makes sense that he stayed. Jaden Daughtry's back. So you're not. He averaged the most points out of the returners at 3.1 points. So you're not bringing back many pieces at all. You got some freshmen coming in though, so that's nice. You got Robert Sean Birmingham, 6'8" freshman. Merritt Alderink, he's a 6'7" freshman, and Jyan Walker, I think, was the most recent commit that I saw. He's a 6'6", wing, gonna be freshman next year. So bringing in some freshmen, 3 freshmen.
Brought in a JUCO transfer as well.
Yep.
Johnny Summer was a 6'6" sophomore who averaged 18 points per game, 4.5 rebounds per game.
So there's your bucket getter
last season. Yep. Other D1 transfers, 4 of them. So there were Samaj Teal, 6'2" redshirt senior from Presbyterian. Tyron Cook, who was a 6'2" sophomore from VMI. Marcus Harding, Central Michigan transfer. And then Camp Wagner, who was transferred from Rice. So, Cook and Wagner, both sophomores, so could stick around for a bit. And then Marcus Harding is a senior, along with, like I said, Teal being a redshirt senior. So a couple guys with experience to help guide this team into the new Matt Graves era. But with all of that, they did drop down. They're projected at 215 based on Torvik. So quite a sizable drop. Definitely the biggest drop of the few schools that did make that drop. But like we said, we expected it.
You lost
when your coach leaves, as well as your 6 top players
who were all on conference teams. You lose 6 conference level players. And Bledson being off the bench, just tough, but expected. So a full rebuild for Matt Graves in his first year at the Indiana State for the Sycamores. We expected it. We support him. We think he's going to do well. So we'll see what they can do next year with that kind of made over roster. Speaking of made over rosters, boy, do we have one here, Jaren. This is a roster that is pretty different. So IUPUI finished 359th last year in Torvik. 362 teams last year, so pretty close to the bottom. So you can't, it's hard to go down. But they ended up moving on. Got a new coach. They brought over Corsaro from University of Indianapolis, which we are very, very big fans of that hire. And as expected, when the coach got fired, Everyone left.
And by everyone, I mean
left.
everyone.
Like the only person they brought back is Dylan Hamilton. That's it. Right?
Yeah.
That's it. So every single other person transferred. So I'll knock these out for you, so you don't have to so you don't have to do it. I mean, it's literally everyone. It's Brayton Allen, it's Cooper DeWitt, Javiz Nakomba, it's Bryce Monroe, Jalen Counter, Vincent Brady, John Abuta, Abdu Sam, DJ Jackson, Ahmad Gerard. It is. Oh, sorry, I'm not done. I had to scroll. That's how many transfers they had. Kidtrell Blocker, Armand Gerard, and Quanzi Samuels.
Quanzi Samuels didn't transfer though.
He
graduated.
Gone. Yeah.
Everyone else transferred though. So like Adam said, guys that returned, Dalen Hamilton, the only one, averaged 8.2 minutes and 1.8 points. They do have Derek Peterson, who was a walk-on. He is coming back. And then Deshaun Goody, Good or Goody, I don't know. It's spelled like Luke Goody's name, but
again, you never know.
Just be good as a 6'8" freshman that they brought in. So since Adam had all the fun talking about guys transferring out, well, I guess it's not fun, but like since Adam talked a lot for that, I'll talk you guys through who they brought in. A lot of D2 transfers. University of Indianapolis, where Coursero came from, was Division II. They were Division II powerhouse. So, he saw a lot of these guys play. A lot of these guys are coming from University of Indianapolis with him. So they brought in Sean Craig, Paul Zelinskis, Nathan Dudukovic. Sorry, we'll get your name right by the season, Nathan. We promise. Julian Steinfeld, and then Jarvis Walker all followed Coursero to IUND, and then he also picked up a D2 transfer from Rockhurst and Tamiris Brown, and then a Wayne State transfer that was also Division II, Alec Melender. So all of the transfers at this point, well, I guess there won't be any more, but are all from the Division II level, guys that either Coursero already coached or likely coached against. And really, it's all about culture building. I think at this point, he's building his program. They are projected to start the season at 337, so a pretty sizable jump, 22 spots. So, if you are an IUND fan, you might be deterred because they are Division II players that really comprise of the roster. Don't let that deter you. I mean, like I said, University of Indianapolis was a top-ranked D2 team all season.
Yeah, they got a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. So
yeah. So quality roster, but again, it's all about building the program at this point for Coursero. So can only go up from being almost the worst team in Division I last year.
Yeah, getting the kind of the best players out of D2 is really, really, really impressive. I mean, a lot of the D2 players at that level who are playing for the best programs are better than a lot of the players who are playing D1 at the kind of the lower end there. So you see a lot of successful D2 transfers, like Xavier Bledson at
prime example.
Yeah, Isaiah Swope was a D2 transfer. So like a lot of D2 transfers that have worked out. We got a lot of them here, but I think it should work out. Now, one without a ton of movement here. Next is our next team. That's Notre Dame. Torvik, they ended the season last year at 124. First year, Micah Shrewsbury's taking over the Irish. Had some people who transferred out. I don't think they graduated anyone, but they did lose Raheem Brayton, Matt Zona, Alex Wade, and Kerry Booth. So Kerry Booth is your most impactful player who's leaving averaged 19.9, almost 20 minutes per game, and almost 6.5 points per game. So, big loss there, but he and Matt Zono were kind of the two, that were impact players getting the most amount of minutes, and kind of the ones who will be missed the most, I guess, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, and the guys that are staying, Marcus Burton, I think their most important player. Braden
100%.
Shrewsbury, don't project him transferring ever.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, man. Patrick McCaffrey left his dad. Anything can happen.
That's true. And Tay Davis and Kevin Jai, all 4 of their 5 starters, all returning. Then J.R. Konechny, Julian Roper, Logan Imes, all guys that were on the roster last year, saw some pretty decent minutes, all returning. They did bring in 4 freshmen, 2 4-stars and a 3-star, all top 200 recruits. Sir Muhammad, Cole,
all-time name guy, by the way. All-time name right there.
Cole Serta, and then Garrett Sundra are all top 200 recruits coming in. And then they also have Tony Sanders, who might be a walk-on. Aren't 100% sure, but
I think so. But I mean, I don't know. Once it gets down to the deep roster, you start losing me a little bit.
Yep. So, but still, I mean, great group of returners or freshman recruits that the Fighting Irish have.
Yeah, I mean, the one you wanted to bring back for sure was Marcus Burton, and you bring him back. He entered the draft to test the waters. Did not get invited to the combine. I thought he should have been invited, but he's a small guard. It happens all the time. So as soon as he didn't get invited, he was coming back, obviously. So biggest piece that's coming back is him right there. And then they bring in one transfer. Matt Aloko transfers over from Princeton. So averaged 33 minutes per game, 12.7 points. So I mean, if he can duplicate that, then he's going to be your second leading scorer for the Irish.
He also shot almost 43% from 3. So
yeah, so tailor made to exactly how Shrews wants to play, and transferring from Princeton to Notre Dame, so he's no dummy. definitely hitting the books for sure. But what a career going from Princeton over to Notre Dame. But they finished the season, like we said, at 124th. This roster, losing those, really 2 big pieces, and then picking up a great shooter like a Loco, moved them up to 81 in Torvik. So a lot of that is the people around them lost a lot of pieces, and they did not lose a lot, and they picked up a big piece. So pretty nice projection for them to kind of move up. And I think that Matt Aloko is going to be very, very important for them going forward.
Yeah. And then so we've got Purdue Fort Wayne. They ended last season at 166. And then, in terms of guys that got leaving, big one, I think a huge piece is Anthony Roberts, who was a starter for them. He graduated, so he didn't really, didn't get a choice. He couldn't stay even if he wanted to. But they are losing Destin Whitaker, who didn't play a lot of minutes, averaged 6 minutes a game, 2 points a game. And then Coy Thurman, another guy that averaged 4 minutes, 2.5 points. And then Keon Miller and Jermaine Coleman, who were both guys that didn't really play at all last year for the Dons, are all transferring out.
Yeah, so this is kind of the exact opposite of what we saw last offseason with Purdue Fort Wayne with the Mastodons, because going into last year, they had just graduated all their entire starting 5. Over 4,000 career points were gone. But they bring back all of their they bring back their entire starting lineup. They were young last year.
Except for Ant.
Yeah. Right.
But I mean,
you bring back a guy like Maximus Nelson, You bring back Eric Mulder, the hardest working man in America. Jalen Jackson's back. Rasheed Bello, Quentin Robertson is back. So you bring back 4 of your starting 5 and Maximus Nelson, who can just be automatic from 3.
And he was their 6th man, so
Yeah. So
he played just under 20 minutes.
so you don't feel like you're losing a ton, and you feel like, okay, that's a great spot to start. Then on the bench, you've got Corey Hadnot coming back. Davion Laverne, he's transferring over from Lee, a JUCO school, averaged like 13.5 points a game there. Jonathan Desjardins back. Chris Morgan is back. And D'Angelo Elise or Elise. I don't know how you would say that one.
Elise?
All right, we'll go with it.
I'm
So
not
those
sure.
are the pieces that are back, but like you said, 4 of your starting 5 is back, and your 6th man is back, and then you've got Desjardins, who backed up Mulder last year. They're all back, and other than Bello, I think they all have eligibility. Q might not. I'm not sure.
I think Q was a freshman last year.
That's what I thought too.
But they did pick up a Texas San Antonio transfer, Chandler Cuthrell. He averaged 15.2 points a game, 4.9. So, a good, backup forward there.
Mm-hmm.
So really, I mean, with all of this, they did make a 16 point jump or spot jump up to 150. So they're a top 150 program now. And I think this speaks a lot to the culture that John Kaufman has built.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of transfers. Anthony Roberts, I imagine, would have stayed had he, had more eligibility. But they're just only going to build on their success last year. They were a good team. They hit a tough spot towards the end of the season, but they're a team that I think even if they start at 150, I think we'll make it even more of a jump and be higher as the season goes on. Just with this roster that they have.
I expect them to pick up kind of where they left off last year.
So let's talk about Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
They did end the season at number 3 in Torvik. Guys that they're losing. 2 big ones. Zach Edey, obviously going pro. And then Lance Jones, who was a transfer last year, played huge minutes. We talked about, I think, 3 weeks ago, that he was a guy that, he's one of the reasons why they made
He got them to the Final Four.
Yeah, he got them to the Final Four. He was the missing piece from the year prior. And then 3 names of guys that are transferring out. Chase Martin, who didn't really see a lot. He
was a walk-on, I think.
Yeah, less than two minutes a game. And then Mason Gillis, Ethan Morton, both using their COVID year to transfer. Kind of expected this because they did have a pretty large recruitment class of freshmen, and they just didn't have the roster spots. Gillis and Morton both played 4 years for Matt Painter, and I think they both saw that it was time to usher in a new group, and they wanted to take their talents elsewhere for that.
I talked about that. I'm a big fan of fulfilling your 4 years, fulfilling your commitment to the school.
Yep.
You got that COVID year, go use it, and especially for guys that definitely saw their minutes reduced as the season went on to go play somewhere where they can go play a little bit more. But bringing back a lot. So 3 of their 5 starters are back. That's Braden Smith, the lead guard, Fletcher Laurie, the 2 guard, and Trey Kaufman-Renn, who played the 4. I expect Trey Kaufman-Renn to play mostly the 5. He's definitely going to be starting at the 5 for Purdue. Since Zach Edey is gone, he's just going to slide right into that role. They'll be a little bit smaller, but he should be starting there. I would probably say, I would probably agree that Miles Colvin probably starts at the 3, and the 4 spot could be Caleb first. It could be Cam Heidi. I would probably lean Cam Heidi there.
Yeah.
Just because you want to build him for the future. You want to, he brings something different than Caleb first does. He's more athletic.
Yeah.
He
Play
can
smaller,
get
play
up and
faster,
down.
play more athletic. Yeah.
So, then you probably got Caleb first on the bench, coming off probably that first man off the bench. Brian Waddell, he's coming back, so they're bringing back so many forwards, this year. And then Will Berg, surprise, Purdue had a 7'2" center waiting in the wings, just ready, just ready to go, I guess.
Well, they've technically got two because they brought in a 7'2" freshman and Daniel.
So they're getting
Jacobson.
smaller.
Yeah,
getting smaller.
They went from 7'4" to 7'2".
Yeah, those are the returners. So tell us about who's transferring to Purdue this year, Jaren.
Yeah, nobody. Like I said, they didn't have any spots that they needed to fill with transfers because they're bringing in 6 freshmen. They've got Cannon Catchings, who's just an absolute athletic wing, 6'9". So he's a little bit on the bigger side as a wing, but he's incredibly athletic. He's a 4-star. Jakari Harris, a 6'4", 4-star coming in. They've got Wrigley Burgess, who is 6'11", not 7 foot, but 6'11".
Small fry.
Yeah. Daniel Jacobson, who I said is a 7'2" freshman, coming in. They got Jack Benter and CJ Cox as other freshmen. So all of them top 300 recruits, 3 stars or better, 4 3-stars, 2 4-stars. The issue that here is they are won over the number of scholarships. So likely to see either, I guess at this point, no one can transfer out because the transfer window has closed.
Yeah, the only person who would be is Caleb first because I think he might have graduated. I don't know if he graduated.
He did not.
Should have asked him when I saw him at the farmer's market last week.
You should have.
Hey, did you graduate? Are you coming back? What are you going to do with that extra scholarship, man? Off the record.
Yeah, but likely to see one of these freshmen redshirt just to hold them on the roster for an additional year. Not sure who that's going to be. Wouldn't be surprised if it's Daniel Jacobson or Burgess, just because they are, both dang near
big.
7 foot or are 7 foot, and they're not going to see much time behind Kaufman, Wren, and Will Berg. So, not sure. It's all purely speculation at this point. But with all of this, their projection going into next season did go down from 3 to 11. So right now they are a top 15 team.
It's crazy to lose the 2-time National Player of the Year and only drop 8 spots.
Yeah, but
and only bringing in freshmen.
Conversely, you are losing the 2-time National Player of the Year, so it makes sense that you might drop a few spots.
Yeah. And you're very impactful, off guard.
Yeah, but still, things are still looking good for the Boilermakers.
Yeah. If those older pieces can bring those freshmen along, they're going to be very, very scary this year. So don't count out. I mean, I don't think anyone's counting them out anymore, but definitely don't count out the Boilermakers. Next, we're going to talk about Southern Indiana. So we've got 2 schools left. Southern Indiana, they finished 326th last year in Bart Torvik, and they are looking to make a jump this year. So they lost some pieces here. They lost some pretty impactful pieces. They lost Kyron Powell. They lost Javius Moore, AJ Smith, Jordan Tillman, Jeremiah Hernandez, Xavier McCord, and Jaren Hassan. So that was 3 of their starters. And then they also graduated Nolan Coswell. So they lose their leading scorer in Jeremiah Hernandez. They lose AJ Smith, who I'm super high on. He's kind of like a walking double-double guy. So 2 really big pieces that it kind of stinks to lose. But, I think, what I say, 2 or 3? Kyron Powell is leaving too. So a lot of scoring is going to be up for grabs for for the Screaming Eagles this next year. But Jeremiah Hernandez going to Ball State, so he's at least staying in the state. Wish he would have stayed, in Evansville, but it's okay. He stayed within the state. That's the next best thing.
Yeah. And then guys that are returning, Ryan Hall, who saw just under 20 minutes per game. Jack Milkey, who's played over 32 minutes per game. Is a 40% 3-point shooter. So he's a knockdown shooter there. Only averaged 8.5 points last year. Likely to see a big jump in his scoring numbers. Jack Campion, Nick Hittle, Sam Mervis, and Luther Smith, all guys that are returning. They do have 4 JUCO transfers up, so not considered a Division I transfer, but they are transfers up. So there's Damani Harrison, who scored 10 points per game at Tallahassee. Jaden Scheider, who is the 79th ranked JUCO player, scoring 8.6 points per game from Northwest Florida State. Braxton Jones, the 31 ranked JUCO player, at 18.9 points per game from Garden City. And Sam Cody, who scored 10.5 points at Western Texas, transferred up from JUCO. So 4 JUCO guys, it is, if you're listening, you're like, oh, they're going from JUCO to Division I. Mm-hmm. Will it translate? I have no concerns about it. I mean, they, like I said, Southern Indiana was 8th in the OVC last year. It is a pretty wide open conference, so a lot of potential there for them to kind of pop off. And who do we have transferring in from the Division I level, Adam?
A lot of guys, and they're all named. Stephen Olawani. That's how I'm going to say it. He transfers from VMI. He's a big athlete who's, gonna be, I don't know, man, just an athletic dog. He's 6'8", sophomore. So if he stays, he's got 3 years of eligibility, including this one. Not really a 3-point shooter, but a good piece to add on to those JUCO pieces that you were talking about. And I feel like Stan Gerard kind of thrives in the realm of picking up like the really, really good players from JUCO who can ball and bringing them in to Southern Indiana down to Evansville and playing really well. So the roster is looking pretty good to me. They're projected right now to go up from 326th up to 307th in Torvik, which is kind of impressive because Jeremiah Hernandez averaged 17.2 points and AJ Smith averaged 13.7 points. So you're losing a lot of points there. But, you bring back, I mean, when you bring back Sam Mervis, I mean, the legend, like you can do anything. So if you got Sam, I'm going to believe in Stan and the Screaming Eagles.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to Valpo. So our final team here saw a lot of changes, but a lot of good changes. So they ended the season last year at 294th in Torvik, and this is a team that we talked about. Roger Powell was building this team for the future. He was not building it to win now. He knew that he wanted to build the team to kind of be successful later on and, build something strong in the Valley at Valpo. So he did lose some pieces, and they were Jerome Palm. He transferred. Jahari Williamson transferred out. Sherman Weatherspoon transferred out. Jackson Edwards, Ala Ajiboy, Luke Carroll, and Lual Manyang all transferred. I believe all have, at least 1 or 2 years of eligibility. But the biggest piece there that transferred out is Williamson, averaged 7.9 points. And then Jackson Edwards was very instrumental this past year. 7.3 points played, just over, half of available minutes. So hate to see them go, but I like the pieces that they're bringing in, and I like the pieces that they're keeping.
Yeah. So in terms of guys they're keeping, lead guard, Darius Diavero. He's a walking assist.
Yeah, no
Isaiah
kidding.
Stafford, their leading scorer, coming back for his final season. Cooper Schwieger, all conference freshman. I think he was freshman of the year in the Valley.
He was, yes.
So he's coming back. I've got Casper Sepp coming off the bench, 6'7" sophomore, just played up just under 20 minutes. Connor Barrett returns, and they've got a number of freshmen. I think our list is a little shorter than actual.
Yep.
But Lucas Scroggins and then Justice McNair are all freshmen that are both freshmen that could be pretty impactful for the Beacons.
Yeah, now they're bringing in some transfers. So Tyler Schmidt is transferring over. He's an NAIA transfer. He was a second team All-American NAIA. So I mean that is a big piece to bring in. Forgive me, I'm going to absolutely butcher this name. Luth Kolabali. He's transferring from Holy Cross. So he averaged 3.6 points per game there. Jefferson Monegro is transferring over from Western Michigan at almost 10 points a game. Devin Ellis is coming over from Maryland Eastern Shore, which is a team that you and I have talked about way more than I ever thought we would talk about. First, it just keeps. It's one of those teams that keeps popping up. He averaged like almost 12 points there. Isaiah Shaw averaged 2.6 points for Grand Canyon, and then I think they have Carson Schwieger.
Yep,
is coming.
Cooper's twin.
Yeah, Cooper's twin brother. So, I mean, you can't be mad. I mean, you get the freshman of the year's twin brother coming over. You're very, very happy about that. And what else? We got some freshmen, Justice McNair and Lucas Scroggins coming in. Maybe Lucas Scroggins was already there. I think he was last year.
He took a red shirt year.
The red shirt. So, some good pieces coming in. I'm interested to see if the Schwiegers will just run that backcourt. If they'll just
put them both down there.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it today, but we'll see.
But yeah, I mean, they ended last season 294, so just inside the top 300. They're projected to start next season at 220. So
that's nice.
Pretty big jump there for the Beacons. Really excited. We're both really high on Roger Powell and what he's going to do for the future of Valpo basketball. So really exciting stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to just seeing how it works out. You see a lot of different approaches. I mean, you see kind of the way that you can see the way that, coaches are approaching this differently. Like Matt Painter is going all in on 6 freshmen. Mike Woodson is going in on transfers. Now, I don't think that was his intention originally. He wanted to have a different recruiting class, but you see these like kind of lower tier teams in Indiana, like Southern Indiana, who have to pick a lot of people from the JUCO and the NAIA ranks, and seeing, finding these up transfers, kind of like these gems down at the lower level.
IUPUI.
Yeah.
Prime example.
Bringing 8 people from D2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Complete turnaround, but one that I think is going to work.
Yeah.
And so it's like you have so many different approaches here, whether it's the way that the coach wants to take, like whether it's the approach the coach wants to take or whether it's the one they had to take. And, it'll be interesting to see at the end of the year, like what worked, what didn't, which transfers hit, which didn't. And, obviously our ideal would be these 11 teams, the top 11 teams in the Torvik rankings at the end of the year. But that probably won't happen. So we're just hoping to see them make improvements, get more Indiana teams into the tournament.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, before we wrap up, shout out to the Pacers. They won both their home games.
Should have been a sweep.
Yep.
Should have been a sweep.
They are currently tied 2-2 in the series, heading back to New York to play. So, you know, positive signs there for the NBA team, the local NBA team. Indiana Fever, they are currently playing preseason. You know, after drafting the number 1 overall pick, best female basketball player in college basketball last year, Caitlin Clark. So, even though the college season is over, the things are getting hot in the NBA, and the WNBA is close to starting. But with that, the clock is showing quadruple zero, so it's time for us to get out of here. Thanks for checking in the State of Basketball podcast. We'll see you next week, hopefully a little earlier. And remember, in 49 states,
it's just basketball.